Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming in good, man. Thanks for making the time. I know you're slotting me in while you're taking care of other things. Well, first off, like, how'd you do? How'd you do on the job today?
Horrible.
Yeah?
Honestly, like if I could have gotten these were 100% resell. No way was I ever. I'm just not. Just wasn't feeling them at all. Anyway, so I would never put them on my feet. So
Interesting. I was feeling them personally.
yeah, I get the concept behind it and everything. It just, I would probably take some getting used to or warming up to
Sure.
rather than like it just right off the bat. It was just kind of I don't know about that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I feel you. Again, thanks for taking time to do this interview. Do you just want to jump right into it?
yeah. Let's go for it, man.
All right. So, first question, can you just give us a little bit about yourself, like at a high level? General, like for example, general location, how long you've been in laced, and how long you've been
Sure.
in reselling.
Yeah. So I've been in Lace for a little over a year now. I think I joined a few days after the initial Black Static 350 drop.
Hmm.
I think I was like in June 2019 at some point. I think I saw a JR Dunlap video, a sneaker huddle, and was intrigued. So I decided to give it a shot. And then a month or so later, I think Nate decided to offer up lifetime memberships.
Yeah.
With that first month that I was in Lace, I loved it, and I decided to apply for it. And luckily, he accepted me. And I think the amount at the time was around 500 or so, and felt good about it. I believed in what you guys are doing, so I didn't mind dropping that amount to stay lifetime at
Yeah.
that point. And other than that, about me a little bit. I'm in Chicago, and I am in my mid 30s. My day job is essentially tech support slash engineering work, so I do okay for myself, I suppose.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the job that I work, because of everything that's going on nowadays, I get to do it from home 5 days a week. So it gives me, I can have my work laptop set up, situated, obviously, and then I have my personal laptop. I got like two or three personal laptops. So in case anything happens throughout the day, I can just fake work for like 5 minutes and then do what I need to do with the sneaker releases or restocks or whatever you want to call, or whatever. And it gives me time to do that as well.
Yeah, you man, it's kind of crazy how this is kicking off because it sounds as though we have a lot more in common than meets the eye. Well, first of all, at eye level, we don't have anything in common, but it seems as though I think we got our lifetimes around the same time. We might have gotten them at the same time actually because I joined sometime in July. And soon after I joined, they offered lifetimes and yearlies and stuff. So it sounds as though we probably applied at the same time and both got it at the same time.
For sure.
That's kind of crazy, and it sounds like we're both in a similar type of fields outside of laced, because I'm an engineer myself, and I've been doing it for a couple of years. We're not the same age, so I got that on you.
All right.
I should say you got that on me. Everything else, it seems as though our time in laced and how we kind of go about outside of lace is pretty similar. So this is going to be a pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah, I heard your first interview that your degree was in electrical engineering or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I got my BS in information systems in 2006.
Oh,
So yeah,
nice.
I pretty much have been in that related field ever since then. Yeah, 2006. You can probably do the math on how old I am, give or take.
Well,
And
you told me how old you were, so.
but I mean, probably figure it out, But
Yeah, 100%. So let me get back to a little bit of laced on stuff. Can you talk to me about your favorite or most memorable cop in laced or in reselling in general thus far?
I thought about that, and it's easy to say something like the MCAs or the Chunky Donkeys. Those have their own stories, but I think when I was thinking about it, I wanted to tell this particular story. So I went on my honeymoon August 31st, and if people remember, August 31st was the Obsidian One drop,
Mm-hmm.
and the day before, I had hit on a couple of foot site raffles, but unfortunately, my flight was that Saturday. I couldn't go.
Yeah.
So, but around that time, the foot sites could still let you change the names of the reservations.
Mm.
So I told my boy Calvin, hey, listen, I'm going to put these under your name. You're going to go to these 2 addresses. You're going to show him all of this because he's not a sneakerhead at all.
Yeah.
So I had to like break it down from step 1 to like step 20 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I was able to get a GS pair and a men's pair. I forget which size was the GS, but I got my own personal. The reason why I say that was, or the reason why I bring this particular story up is, I believe in karma. Karma is just something that what goes around comes around, all that
Yeah.
good stuff. So I was in Bali and Singapore for 2 weeks. That second Thursday was the Sakai LD waffle drop. It was like the black white, the white silver, and that little Barney pair.
Right.
I had not anticipated Nike because I was going to enter multiple accounts on I brought my laptop with me, and I logged in through my VPN, but I guess Nike bans VPNs apparently. So I was like, oh shoot, I can only enter on my one account on my phone. I don't know how Nike still accepted my entry, but I was able to hit the black pair and the Barney pair on one account, and I got 2 charges right away.
Nice.
So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, okay, you know what? It's good karma because I took my boy Calvin out to dinner the night before as a payment for him getting my obsidians. Therefore, the karma passed on to me when those Sakai LD waffles dropped, and I was able to hit 2 on one account, which to me was mind blowing. I don't know how Nike's algorithm works in the back end. I would love to decipher that one day, but so I just chalked it up as good karma for taking care of my boy Calvin, and the rest is history. So that particular drop, or that stretch of time between those 2 drops was kind of like, okay, Nike's paying me back in a sense for my showing Calvin a good time, and you take care of someone, you get taken care of as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that was a great story to hit, dude. And just, I'm telling you right now, dude, if Joey listens to this guy is probably livid hearing you hit twice on one account. It's a weird thing hearing these stories that sound like myths of people
Sure.
hitting so well.
The funny thing is, on that flight over to Singapore, I was trying to enter Nike entries for the Obsidian ones. The Wi-Fi on that flight was just god-awfully slow. I freaking gave up. I was like, you know what? Screw this. It's not meant to be. But luckily I had those pairs reserved anyway. So, but, hey.
It worked out, yeah. So really quickly, in respect to your Nike account, do you, similar to the interview we had with Mailman, do you also generate activity, or what's your approach to the Nike thing?
I mean, I don't think anybody knows for sure, but I kind of suspect that it is somewhat based on activity. So one of my hobbies outside of sneakers is I run. I was sort of training for a marathon, but with all this COVID stuff, like nobody's holding like marathons anymore at this
Yeah.
point. So I do buy like my running gear on some of my other accounts, not my main account, just to kind of generate the activity, if you will. I don't think anyone can say for sure whether that's actually going to help or not, but I don't think it hurts necessarily.
Of course.
So it's funny, I created an account for my mom. I've only hit one thing on that account, which was the satin black toes that came out like in August or something like that in this last summer. And I was just had no idea that I would never have thought in a million years my mom's account would have hit. But yeah, no, that was because I don't think it's a coincidence that like a week before that or something like that, that I had bought like a couple of Nike running shirts and stuff like that. But I haven't used that account since, and I haven't hit since. So maybe this is now I'm starting to think to myself, maybe I should just buy some more stuff on that and see what happens. And,
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Like it seems as though this is the second time we're hearing something like that where activity seems to be playing a part. Of course, we don't have a definitive answer. We're never really gonna know. But, you know, the point of these interviews is also very insightful to see both what's common between you guys, chefs in general, and what can be a little bit different. Because I think the listeners are going to gain value from hearing these different perspectives and seeing that there's not just one way to go about it. And I think that this is going to be the most value, in my opinion, from it. So let me pivot really quick. I know we're talking about Nike accounts and hitting this particular store. I want to broaden it a little bit. Can you talk to me about like your setups in general? Like, are you uh, all manual? Do you have bots? Are you using any other
So
resources? Hit me.
yeah, absolutely. So the bots that I really use, it's funny. You guys had a plugged iOS by
Yeah, a
let's say
long time ago.
And I just finally hit on that thing yesterday for the motion logo tee.
Funny.
Very first, I gave up on that bot, but I think I had a meeting going on, and I couldn't do it manually. So I said, you know what, screw this. I'll set this up. Let's see if this actually works. And I only had set up one task on a black medium because I figure medium's going to be like the size that'll stay in stock the longest.
Hmm.
And just, all right, I'm going to run it. Let's see what happens. And then I think like 5 minutes later or something like that, I had checked it and bam. I was like, oh, shoot. And I checked my email. Oh, awesome. So I use that. So I'll start using that a lot more now. And then the other, I was able to get Shark Frenzy, I want to say about sometime in the winter, this past winter. And that's been, up and down, but they've recently made some changes. And I think for the most part, it's pretty decent. It's on, I don't know if it's on par with like Mango Frenzy or these other Frenzy bots, but
Yeah.
that it seems, I've hit a couple times on that thing. And then the other bot that I sort of regret buying is Ghost for the exact, reasons that we spoke about 5
Yep.
minutes ago. So
Yeah.
is Nike, yeah, I think I saw your post yesterday. Yeah, Nike accounts or Nike botting is just, I don't know what the future holds for that, but right now it just looks really bleak. And so I thought about using I bought the Essentials group buy as well. And then one of the things that Essentials does is the spoofing
Yep.
or multiple, yeah. So
Browsers.
I've considered doing that, but I just don't know if I could pull up like 10, 15 windows and start like just clicking around like
Hmm.
submit. I'm going to play around with that personally to see if that's even viable for me. But other than that, my setup is essentially I got like 3 or 4 laptops um, set up. I try to submit no more than 3 accounts per computer, and each computer has its own IP because I have like the company I work for example, they give me a hotspot. I use my phone's hotspots because I have my work phone and my personal phone,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I obviously have my home internet at home, and that we actually have a second ISP in the house, but but that's only an Ethernet connection, so I kind of use one of my laptops as that as for that as well. So I have various IPs that I could come from, let's say. So hopefully Nike doesn't kind of suspect something.
Yeah.
But all of the other accounts that I have that have zero activity, some that I've bought from the Nike accounts group buy that you guys have
Hmm.
going on,
Yeah.
they haven't. I think I may have one purchase failed, and that's probably my fault. But for the most part, yeah, I need to do something with those accounts as far as like generating activity or something like that, or just logging into the account and then just clicking around, even doing that. Like, yeah, that's sort of my setup. And then like for Shopify, for me personally, from what I've noticed, the two sites that I really go for are Undefeated and Kith,
Hmm.
just because I feel like manual users will have an outside chance, even though it's not very good, of copying from those two sites in particular. Um, I really don't mess with like the social statuses and the manières because their stock is just never enough for a manual user to go for. But yeah, like the day of I think you're gonna get into like the day of the release. How do I do it? 7 a.m. I'm talking Central Time here. 7 a.m. Undefeated drops, and then 8 a.m. I set up all my snipes. Snipes is one of the sites that I think I'm gonna go with a lot more now because at 8 a.m. they start allowing users to create sessions, if you want to call it that.
Hmm.
So like I set up like 30, 40 sessions and just
Interesting.
hope that one or two hit. And
So sort of like Easy Supply and Adidas, where you like.
in a way, yeah.
Okay.
So the way Snipes and I think YCMC works the same way is that every time you enter the queue, you get like a token or something on the bottom.
Sure. Sure.
And so what I do is I actually use my plugged iOS as well. I'm just creating sessions, and I'm sure I won't use them all. But if let's say I create like 50 of them, and the first two that I notice get through the queue really quick, I'm on it, and then I just check out whatever I need to check out. Now, unfortunately for the Toro release, what they did was instead of having an open queue and then letting people in like Easy Supply, it was literally first come first serve.
Ah. Okay.
So like they had opened it I think around 2 minutes before 8 o'clock Central, and I didn't know. Had I known, I would have created my users ASAP. I figured I had time because it's like a waiting room, but they kind of like Snipes likes to mix that up once in a while, and unfortunately I couldn't get a hold of a Toro through Snipes. But that's so 8 a.m. I set up for Snipes, and then 9 a.m. when Snipe starts letting people in, and then I'm also submitting sneakers accounts as well. And then yeah, and then that's how I generally go. As a manual user, it's kind of really hard to get it restocked anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't even, for the most part, I don't bother unless it's like something that I feel I have an outside chance of. So, but other than that, that's pretty much how I approach a day of release.
So it's really interesting because I think when we were discussing who's gonna be chef this month or who have we had as chefs, my staff pointed out that it's crazy how many chefs are actually manual users. And
Sure.
I think that's almost like a direct opposite of what you would expect because, bots, and I mean bots like, a PD, Kodai, Belko, the big ones, the ones that Soul, Wrath, stuff like that, to be the ones that are like, oh, these guys are always going to hit, right? Because a lot of people come in with the conception that, if I want to be successful, I need to have a bot. I need to invest X amount of capital. Now, the interview with Just Matt that I had not too long ago, he mentions capital as being something very important to have because it helps you kind of get the ball rolling, and it does. However, knowing how to balance it between rentals or even staying manual seems to be just as important as trying to get a big bot. And I'm just kind of speaking to this because even though you have plugged, which for those that don't know is a bot, and Shark Frenzy, which I think is also a mobile bot, right?
No, it's a desktop application.
Desktop, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So desktop, so you have Shark Frenzy, Ghost, and Plugged. We're on the same wavelength with Ghost, dude. I only hit on it once, and it was when I first got it, and I think it was also on the Black Satins.
Okay, nice.
And that was the only hit I ever got, and it was like for someone that wanted it, so I think it was like basically a slot. But since then, yeah, like the post I made yesterday, botting what these Nike bots do is nothing different than what you do with your Chrome users or with your spoof browsers. So save yourself the money from dropping a couple $100 and just do it manually. Like it could be.
Absolutely. The funny thing is, I bought my Ghost right on Bot Broker, and I was thinking to myself, okay, do I want to invest in a Nike bot or do I want to invest in something like Project Destroyer, which at the time, which was like January, was only like a lifetime was only like around $800. And I was thinking to myself, 800. Do I really want to drop that right now?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
Ghost at the time was I think I bought mine for like around 250, something like that.
Mhm.
And I was like, all right, you know what? I'll invest in PD later or something like that. And look at the price of PD now. Like
Yeah,
it's just
crazy.
like wow. It's almost like its own like sneaker in a sense where like you hold it and then look at the value of it now.
No, and it's a learning process, 100%. And I'm glad you mentioned it. Bots in themselves can also be almost like sneakers because their performance does have a market. So, like you
Sure.
mentioned, PD lifetime $800. Now it's people are asking like $2,000 for it. Now, of course, you had to wait for it like a couple months, but if you keep taking L's on sneakers, it's not far-fetched to start just flipping bots because it's the same bots, it's the same amount. There's gonna be new ones that pop up, but it's the same set.
Absolutely.
You're gonna hear the same names over and over again, but performance does impact their resale. So, and it's actually much more volatile than sneakers because you have drops every week. If a bot just takes L's for 2, 3 weeks at a time, prices can definitely go down. I mean, you have examples like I'm gonna give an extreme example of Wrath. For the longest time, Wrath was basically being resold for retail. Um, Renewal
Hmm.
was like $300. Lifetime was like $500-600. Now the renewal from $300. The last sale I think on Bot Broker for the renewal was over 3,000.
Wow.
That is insane. And it happened super quick out of nowhere. You kind of have to have an in, and I'm just doing all this to plug the fact that, we do support bot flipping. Like we have a bot flip section where we have someone that's dedicated to letting you know which bots can go up and down. Now the prices are not going to be that extreme. You're not going to make $2,000 off of this, but you can definitely make your 40, $50. You can make your monthly membership back in just a couple of purchases and transactions. As an example,
Absolutely.
I digressed a little bit, but we were talking about bots, and I kind of just wanted to touch on that because it is rather
Right.
important information for everybody.
I was told that January's, because January is generally the driest month when it comes to sneakers in
Hmm.
general, is probably the best time to be, it's a buyer's market then, because people are just like, hey, I'm trying to get rid of this.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a crazy concept, man.
Absolutely.
Let me get us back on track because I know
Sure.
I took us off of it. Sorry for that.
No, 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 no worries.
So in the discussion of your setup, you actually walked us through like your routines and practices. So let me actually move on beyond that and say, what would you say it's easy to do what you do and how you do it? So like for people listening, in your opinion, what are things that you should have as like characteristics or the mentality or approaches to be able to be successful to the level that you're clearly at?
I mean, to me, it's all about routine. If you're starting off, you're going to try to find your niche and see what things work for you and what doesn't work. What works for me may not work for you. Like, for example, like I said, I have like 3 or 4 spare machines laying around. You may not have that.
Hmm.
Whoever's listening. So, but I think it's all about being consistent and just it's just a routine. I was thinking about this. It's the analogy I like to use is almost like, when you see a baseball player or going at bat, he has his routine that he does before he gets into the batter's box and
Right.
gets ready to. So it's all about doing the same things like that you've been doing. So like for example, like part of what I mentioned earlier was 7 a.m. undefeated is going to drop. So I got to wake up at like 6:30. I got to do whatever I do to wake up, get ready for that drop, and then 8 a.m. Like I said, it's all intuitive at this point. I don't have to necessarily have a checklist anymore and I'm sure that'll help in the beginning, but once you get into the swing of things, it's all intuitive. But as far as other characteristics, I mean, you got to learn to take L's. You're going to take a lot of L's more than W's, man. Like, the same baseball analogy, the best hitters hit 3 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
Or, something like that. That's, you're going to lose 7 out of 10. That's the way I kind of think of it. If I can stay around that batting average, I'm okay. I realize I'm not going to hit every single drop. I think it's unrealistic to think, because you're going to get a bot. I'm gonna cook like Bot Boy Nova or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that it's going to happen to you. I mean, it probably took him years to like perfect his setup and to the point where he doesn't need to think about it anymore. I mean, if I ever get into botting, I'm sure it'll take me, a cool second to kind of figure things out. But once I figure it out, it's all
Of
intuitive.
course.
Yeah, just
Routine.
yeah, it's routine and don't, be afraid of rejection, because sneakers is going to stiff arm you a lot, and yeah, I mean, just,
So,
things will work themselves out as long as you just do what you got to do. And if you did everything perfectly and you still failed, it's okay. Like just, there's always the next release, you know what I mean? Like don't get too down on things and just move on because there's always bigger fish to fry.
100%. And two things you mentioned that I want to touch on. Routine. It's this is just a comment. It's interesting you say routine because you are routinely in the chef role. I don't know how you do it, dude, but you were one of the first chefs we had, and
Hmm.
you just had it this past month, and you were also in the running to get it this month again. It was between you and Just Matt.
No.
No, no, yeah, you were. It was between you and Just Matt, and I mean, I have Dave, who's like in charge of keeping track of all the data and like success and everything,
Sure.
and he's like, it's between these two guys, and I was like, geez, like again, like does no one else want
You
to?
know,
And he just says, well, they're just that good. So your routine is doing something right. Is that's kind of the line I was trying to get to.
right. I know. No, honestly, had I been a fly on that ball, I would have been say, listen, the month of May when I cooked all those royal toes, okay, cool. Like, but it's funny. Like some of my success posts, I was like, can I get back in the chef role, please? Well, like I think I said that a couple of times, especially when I copped all those royal toes. Yeah, Shoe Palace, like I mean, I know I'm getting off track here for a second, but like they around that time, I think I kind of suspected something, and I tried something out, and it worked. Essentially, add the cart. I don't think a lot of people know that Shoe Palace, they allow multiples, even though it says limit one per customer.
Hmm.
People read that literally, and they're like, okay, it's just one. But no, you can edit. It used to be six. Now they brought it down to four.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Interesting.
Next time you can add on Shoe Palace, go to when you're in your cart, change the amount because that's a text box. That's not just one. It's a text box. Change it to four. Hit enter. It should update as long because we all know Shoe Palace can be like a really like when drops happen. It's a really S word website.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it'll take some time, and then once you get through checkout, just check it out with four, and then yeah, I did
Easy
that
money.
multiple times. Yeah, exactly.
Easy
And I
money.
had no idea until someone pointed it out to me. Um, but
We've never
yeah.
we've never knew this. Like I think this is about to be a gem in this video. Holy crap. Because I
Now the problem is the problem is getting
Oh yeah,
getting
yeah,
the,
yeah.
the shoe to add to cart. And
There's
then secondly, what they introduced recently was Cloudflare, which I am trying to sort of like as a side mission, if you will. I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of get around that.
Mhm.
And you could probably get around that with just proxies, like because I know like for example, in your Windows settings, you can just say, hey, instead of going from this going my IP, just to see the via like your Wi-Fi network. I'm gonna insert one of my proxy username passwords or whatever or IP off whatever it is,
Mhm.
and then it'll come from that it'll come from that instead. But I'm trying to figure out a way where when you get IP banned from Shoe Palace, to kind of say to submit some sort of API request to Cloudflare to say, hey, listen, my IP of blah blah blah, get it out, or unblacklist it so I can keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the kind of one of the things, something I'm working on the side. I don't know how successful I'll be. I'm trying to reverse engineer that. But yeah, going back, yeah, Shoe Palace is like this. I don't think people knew that, and I think people were looking at me when I posted those things. They're like, yeah, right. Like, yeah, you really got six or whatever, or five, whatever it was. But then the picture spoke for itself.
Sure
I think
enough.
you
Yeah.
remember. Yeah. So exactly. So yeah.
Well, if you end up figuring out that Cloudflare workaround, be sure to hit us up because I know that we can definitely put it out there
It,
somehow.
it's not easy. Let's put it that way.
If you end up striking gold, we can definitely help you get it to the masses and it turn
Absolutely.
into like a win-win somehow. So
Yeah.
again, like I like the fact that we're pivoting and having these tangents because all these conversations lead to something great. I know I mentioned earlier there were two things I wanted to hit. The first one was routine. The second thing you mentioned in the previous response was your failures, like
Hmm.
accepting failure. And I think that can't be said enough because it's a very important part of actually understanding a lesson. Like you can be taught a bunch of stuff, but when you understand, there's a level of failure that goes into understanding. Like a simple example is like, you're in math class, teacher teaches you something, and you just don't know what the hell you're doing. And so they give you homework, but it's not
Sure.
it. If you think about it, you don't understand the problem when you get it right. You're beginning to understand every time you get it wrong because you see what didn't work and what is working. So with that, can you talk to me about the mistakes that you had made or the failures that you've taken that helped you kind of learn something?
Ooh, a good one is privacy. I had not. It's not that I didn't know that once you use a privacy card, it's stuck to that merchant.
Yeah.
I got I got SOL once where I used one of my privacy cards. I forget which drop it was, and then but it was for a Shopify site. I did not use that on a Nike account, but I figured I was like, I was a little naive thinking, okay, you know what, Nike, I'll just use this. And then it actually declined my transaction. It didn't say
Ooh.
I forget what Nike says when you don't hit.
Yeah.
It said payment failure, whatever it said. I was like, oh my God. And then I had to learn the hard lesson that once you use a privacy card,
It
it is stuck
binds.
to that
Yeah.
merchant. And it is a little inconvenient in the sense where you probably have to, I'm sure a lot of people will delete cards and add cards like it's nothing.
Hmm.
I took that hard L the wrong way, or I had to learn it the hard way. and that. And then as far as setting up autofill, so the thing was, the reason why I bring this up is I had set up a tip trans account
Mm-hmm.
and so I can get stuff from Juice, and because they require a Hong Kong, some
Right,
drops
right, right,
require
right.
a Hong Kong address, and I actually got to like I got past the initial queue, and I was trying to fumble around adding, because the problem is maybe we're not all familiar with how a Hong Kong address is set up in
Right.
like during the, yeah, so I was trying to set that up at the same time that I was going for the drop, and I was fumbling that, and I just gave up. I forget what it might have been, one of those off-white, not off-white, one of those Air Force Ones. I might have been the blue one. I don't remember anymore. And so actually spoke to a friend of a friend who lives in Hong Kong to say, hey man, like how do you set up a Hong Kong address, because I have no freaking idea.
Yeah.
So he walked me through it, and I was like, okay, cool. So next time I'm prepared for that, in case Juice is ready to go, in case Juice drops another Hong Kong exclusive or something like that.
Right.
And then same thing with they have a London address as well. So I have one of my connections from my old job is in the UK. So I picked his brain for 5 minutes. Like, how do you set up the London address, just to make sure that I know I'm doing this? If and when I ever decide to buy, and DSM London decides to drop something, I'll be ready to go for that. So at least I know how the address. So I've taken failures from there as well. But like I said earlier, you learn and you move on, and hopefully you don't make the same mistake twice. And yeah, you just accept it and move on.
Yeah, I think these examples are a great callback to what you mentioned, routine, and with routine comes preparation. Um, I think it's speaking volumes that as a manual user, there is no real shortcut to getting past preparation. Like you have to put in time and effort. I mean, you're calling people across the world to get your setup right. Like, I mean, that's a big example, but it's a good metaphor for the fact that this isn't something that you can just like wake up, click a button, and you're done. That's more bot things. But even in the bot world, there's stuff that goes around in the background that it requires its own set of preparation. So I think that's a great callback. So thank you for that. Thank you for that response, because I think people need to. It's a difficult thing to understand and to learn, but it's something that needs to be understood that failure is okay. It's gonna happen.
You use the to divert for a minute. You use the teacher example. I was the we just saw the Last Dance documentary. Jordan had to get past the Pistons
Yep.
multiple
Yep.
times in order to achieve all the success he did in 91 through 98. So it's going to happen. You just have to learn to deal with it, learn something from it. Because I don't want to sound cheesy for a second, but I think there's this quote that's like, the greatest failure, sorry, if you don't learn anything from it, then that's the biggest failure, right?
Yeah.
Learn something from it, and do your best to not let it happen again.
I think that's a great
Like it's,
analogy. I
yeah.
wish I would have thought of a basketball one for what we're talking about. But I just defaulted to school.
No, that's cool. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm here to back you up.
So with this discussion of learning and failures and picking yourself up again, let me clean transition to the Lace network. Do you believe the server is providing the proper support to help people improve and prepare for these kinds of things?
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. Like, you guys have a channel for every drop. Like the Toros, for example,
Hmm.
that just came out. You'll say, you guys, and I don't have it in front of me right now. You guys will say, hey, this site will drop at this time. This site that site will drop this time, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like, what I kind of do is I build out a kind of like I imagine like an Outlook calendar in my head,
Yeah.
and it's just like, from this time it's going to be this, that time is going to be that, this time will be that, so and so forth. But yeah, no, you guys break it down like simple, in a sense where it seems anyone should be able to follow it. Now, time zone differences may be something that because in my particular field, I deal with time zones all the time.
Hmm.
So it's kind of intuitive to me. So maybe a quick 2-minute lesson in learning what time zones. If it's 10 a.m. in Eastern, it's 7 a.m. I know that seems that's really simple, but people screw that up a little bit more than I think, and or at least the newbies at least. And it's just important to like kind of do that conversion in your head right away, so that you don't screw yourself up. Uh, when you make these releases. But I think for the most part, you guys are breaking it down pretty simple. Um, yeah, I have no complaints when it comes to that.
Is there
For me
anything in
personally.
particular you'd like to point out that's been unique to your success? If you had
Uh,
to pick something, I mean, if you can't, then if it's great all around, then we can say it's great all around. But for the folks that are probably new, that are like, hey, where should I probably focus most energy on? Is there something like that that comes to mind to you?
hmm.
Cough, cough, guides, cough, cough.
Yeah. Well, no, the guides do help. They do. But something that's just been instrumental to my success. And to be honest with you, let me take a step back. I don't think I am that successful in comparison to some others.
A very humble man. I
Um,
like that.
no, honestly, I joke around wanting the chef role and stuff like that, but I don't think. I mean, I know you guys are judging it and all that. I humbly accept it, but I just don't think I am, the goat or anything like that. Hardly. There's always ways to improve and to keep improving. But to go back to your question, it's just really, honestly, it just really comes down to just being prepared. I think the more prepared you are, the better chance of success that you have. Now, you might enter like one raffle and have dumb luck, but I'll give you an example. Is the Chunky Donkey when those came out, I entered every single raffle that I could,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, and it was funny. I hit on CCS, and if you remember, CCS had like all these questions, and their Instagram post said something about be prepared to answer questions about Nike SB and Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, wonder it's going to be some sort of like survey or whatever you want to call it. Maybe I should, I don't know what questions they're going to ask. I'm not a skateboarder by any means, but I do know some names. But I, you know, I think in my free time I may have just looked up some stuff, Nike SB and Ben and Jerry's as well. And when that came up, and I think I answered. I think I may have one of those questions I probably had to Google, but the rest of them I kind of knew
Yeah.
without having to really click. I think it was like which flavor was not a Ben and Jerry flavor or something like that, and
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck? But the other ones, for the most part, it was almost like click, 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 and then lo and behold, I mean, I know they say it's all random, and I'm sure it is all random. Preparing for that was key to my getting that raffle or hitting on that, and yeah, just like and then the other thing I like what you guys do is you guys will inform us when there's going to be some sort of potential shock drop and things like that. So the Travis Scott Air Force Ones, if I remember right,
Hmm.
you guys said it was going to be like around 2 p.m. Central, and I was ready to go. I spoofed. I think I purchased that. What's that program that it's on my desktop that allows you to spoof your location? Um,
Oh,
Shoot,
I know
what
which
is
one you're
it?
talking about. Damn it, the name's slipping my mind.
Yeah, yeah, but I purchased that from you guys. It was a group buy from you guys, and I said, you know what? Let me start putting my phone's address is going to be in that Houston location,
Oh yeah, it was by
and
the amusement park, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
remember. I remember.
So being prepared for things like that, um, and I hit on one of those, thank God, and
So, I mean,
yeah,
let me just go back to something you said earlier really really quickly.
sure,
First of all, I think you got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and when you say I don't think I'm that successful, when you literally just told me you hit Chunky Dunkies, you hit Travis Scott Air Force Ones, and everyone else is taking L's. And I mean, there's only a limited amount of stock. So
sure,
the reason kind of why I'm trying to hit this is that it's very common for ourselves to not think that we're that good. It's a common thing. I think it's common at least here in the States. And I'm not trying to say that you're not confident or anything like that, but what I am trying to get at is that you have this role and you have it for a reason. Like if you didn't earn it in some way, we wouldn't give it to you. And that's the simplest way to say it. Now, if you say, "Well, I hit 1, I didn't hit 50, I didn't hit 60," that's not really the point. It's the fact that you're someone that other people can look up to, right? So Chef isn't obviously the obvious response to Chef is, oh, these guys are probably hitting 20 clips on the regular. They could be, and you can, but the point is that you can because you know how to do it, and more importantly is that you chefs should be great role models for the people that are just starting out, right? So your knowledge makes you incredibly valuable anywhere you would want to go, in terms of like cook groups or whatever support channel, wherever you decide to help out. Like I don't doubt, in my opinion, there shouldn't be a day where you don't have a DM from somebody that wants to get started, right? Well, obviously they have to understand what the Discord is and
Sure.
what these roles mean. But if I see someone like Big Boy, someone like Just Matt, someone like Wheezy or Mailman, like I'm probably gonna DM them at some point and be like, hey, dude, like I took an L, like do you have any recommendations, blah blah blah. Like that to me right there is what makes you guys great. You guys can be pillars that the Lace Network puts up, right? And it helps build is probably a better word to say it. So I just wanted
Hmm.
to say that because I don't want this to be like, well, chef role is easy to get and it's like it doesn't mean anything. It's like it means something to the people that are looking up because they see you. And so you might not be looking back, you might not be looking down and see all these people, but it's real and it's something that I kind of, especially on the staff side, it becomes obvious very quickly that you yourself are just answering questions, but you don't realize that you have a mass amount of folks that depend on you for something. Now, to be fair, staff has an obligation to help. You would just have the option to, right? But it's giving you it's the avenue to give you that option that we kind of give some sort of validation, if it makes sense. It's not,
Sure.
it's kind of a weird way to say it. My words might not be like spot on, but I kind of just wanted to hit it. Like it's not,
No,
even though you don't think it, we all see it. You know what I mean?
I at one point wanted to be a support, or I think you guys opened up applications for that a while ago.
Hmm.
My thing is, I don't know. I mean, if somebody wants to DM me here and there, that's cool. I'm never opposed to that. It's just that to be a staff, and shout out to all the staff because you guys do an instrumental role for the new guys and the, the people that are still there as well. I just don't know if for me personally, given my life circumstances at the moment, whether I could fully dedicate myself to that.
Yeah.
Um, and like it requires your staff, it requires a certain level of attention
You'd be
and
surprised,
stuff
dude.
like that.
You'd honestly be surprised. I mean, you and I, we have a lot in common, and I manage a server. Our
Hmm.
lifestyles probably aren't exactly the same, but they're probably very similar. Like, um, so most
Sure.
of us, some of us have families, some of us are just like in college and stuff. So yeah, like
Hmm.
I know because you're probably thinking back to your college days where you're like, man, I had all this time to do whatever I wanted. I could be in the server 24/7 and I can help everybody.
Yeah.
Um, that's the value of having a big team. You have to drop off because like you have a child that's crying or your wife wants attention or whatever the situation is, right? Like if you got to step out, someone else can jump in. So you actually would be surprised.
I don't want to sidetrack, but one of my things is I'm on call on a regular basis.
Hmm.
So like there'll be weeks where I probably couldn't do it at all. I mean, like literally that, and that's my problem. I'll tell you guys advance, like, hey, this week, 89 myself out of the rotation or whatever you want to call it because I have to focus on work and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll consider it.
It's all
Like
good. Hey, I'm
if
not
and when
trying to.
if and when
This
it
isn't a
ever
sales
opens.
pitch,
Yeah.
man. I'm not trying to like. Not. It's not a secret thing. Me trying to like recruit you or anything like that. It's option. It's open to everybody. I'm just giving perspective that we make it easy to be able to do what we ask you to do. And we're very
Sure.
understanding all the way around. So let me get us back on track. I think
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
we're getting pretty close to the end here.
Yeah.
We talked about Laced. It just really quickly. Are you in any other groups? Is Laced your only group?
So I'm in one other group. I don't know. Am I allowed to say it, or like I don't know what?
They're good. You
So
can say it if you think that
guys.
well, you know what.
So I'm in Chicago, and it's a Chicago focused group.
Okay, yeah, definitely shout them out.
So yeah, they're it's a Chicago AIO,
Okay.
and they help with not with more of like the local stuff. I mean, given COVID and everything that's happened, not a lot of stores are open, but now some stores are opening up. So they'll definitely say, hey, you know, Snipes on so and so street is dropping first come first serve for the Toros, for example. They'll tell me about that. So definitely that they help from a local scene, and they do. I mean, they do a lot of things that you guys do as well. But for them, for me, they've helped a lot when it comes to the local scene in Chicago specifically. And I would encourage everyone that wants to take reselling seriously. You know, I don't know. I'm sure you guys have a wide, diverse of people and where they're from and stuff like that. I would always encourage someone to kind of find their local cook group within that will help you, with the in-store drops and stuff like that. I know that's not what you guys necessarily focus on. So like for example, if I put in member important, yeah, for folks that are in Chicago, so-and-so store is
Yeah.
dropping. I don't know if that's going to be applicable to like 95% team or your group,
No, it might not. It
so
might not, but that's why we have the location roles, because when you join, you can react to the roles you want,
oh yeah,
and
I didn't even think about
and in there, we have the major cities. Basically, the cities where like there's that heat that drops, so like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and I think we have a couple more, but you can tag directly people that are in that location saying, hey, everybody in Chicago, like, eyes up. But I think you're hitting on something really important because usually when we think of groups, we think of, paid memberships and subscriptions. And one of the other interviews, he's going to touch on it because I had one earlier that kind of
hmm
dove a little bit into different groups. But the local ones, that's something that I think I want to plus one what you just said. It would be very smart and very resourceful to look at something locally that's dedicated to local stuff because you're just increasing the net of success. You know what I mean?
sure. Yeah, I didn't think I totally forgot about the local. I do remember you did that a few months back. So it's funny that like I picked up my Toros yesterday from the finish line in downtown Chicago, and they had told me that they were going to do leftover pairs the next day, which is today. And I mean, I didn't think about it at the time. But yeah, that's something that I can try to keep in mind.
All good, man. Like that's kind of the whole. I think that's gonna bring value to everybody when they listen to it. They're like, "Oh crap, we can do that." Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So, dude, we're approaching the hour mark. So
Yeah,
let me hit you with the last
sure.
question, and we can, have a clean finish here. Another opinion-based question. To you, what makes a great chef or a great reseller?
You definitely have to approach this, with a good amount of optimism, caution, because for example, you don't want to overstretch your budget, because especially if your budget, let's say, it's only like $1,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to be going for multiple, bariums or anything like that. Like that's just because all your budget is going to be tied into that. But um, to me, like just knowing what I can buy, knowing what things are dropping, and specifically for the Lace Network, making sure that you're subscribed to the right channels. That's always key because I remember when I first joined, I must have gotten 100, 200 Discord notifications. I was like, I don't need all this.
Yeah.
So definitely subscribe to the ones that are relevant to you. Like for example, like I know you guys have like a lot of Nike channels.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Nike Great Britain, Nike whatever is not going to be relevant to me, so I mute those. So take, once you join, take a few minutes or an hour or whatever it takes you to kind of make sure that you're subscribed to the right channels and the channels that are going to be relevant to you. And what's relevant to me may not be relevant to you, and vice versa.
Right.
Um, and just kind of do it as you can. I mean, enjoy life first, man. Like seriously, like shoes are always gonna come later. But just enjoy what you're doing. I know we're all doing this for various reasons. Um, But I mean, just honestly, just keep doing what you like. There's no easy answer on that. I mean, I thought about it ever since I heard. Yeah, I'm sorry if there's a lot of wind, but I heard Mailman's interview, and I was thinking to myself, okay, yeah, consistency. I mean, we talked about that already. Um, just having just being on top of things, like everything that we've talked about to this point. I think you can put that in a crystal ball. Throw all those attributes and characteristics of what I just mentioned earlier. Luck, a little bit of luck doesn't hurt either. Um, but just putting all that in a nice pot, stir it all around, and that's what I think is going to make a great chef or a great reseller, in my opinion. There's just no single characteristic or attribute it's just a multitude of things that's going to make you successful. It's just not one thing, but add them all up together, that's what's going to make you successful. I hope that kind of makes sense.
It does, and I mean, I like the response. It's not, there isn't always going to be just a singular thing that makes you stand out. So, I mean, thank you for that response. And with that, man, that's all of the questions I had for you today. I appreciate you taking the time. I know it wasn't the best circumstances because you're out and about, and I hope people
Yep.
that listen don't mind the background noise. But I think we can chalk that up to culture. We'll just say, you're you're including yourself in the culture, and then you gave us that experience of Chicago. So thank you for having the wind in the background and traffic in the background.
Yeah.
I loved it. At
No, I apologize. This is the best I could do.
it's
Otherwise, we're
totally
gonna have to
fine,
push
man.
it back a little bit. Yeah.
Don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. At this time, I want to open it up to you. Is there anything that, was there a question you probably want to go back on? Or was there a statement? Do you want to give any shout outs? I want to kind of open the
You
floor to
know,
just whatever you want to say
yeah,
for
I
the.
was looking at my notes really quickly. One of the things that I do to be successful as well is for a website that I'm not really familiar with. I one of and this might sound like simple and it's like duh, one of those duh kind of things,
Hmm.
but I simulate the checkout process. So, like for example, Nordstrom is a great site that came to mind just now. Is their they're not Shopify, at least not, I don't think they are. Um, but just simulating the checkout process, making I've told people in the past, hey, make sure you're logged into your account, make sure you have a credit card established, assigned to your account, because once you add an item to cart, it's going to be I think it's like maybe you click checkout and you click place order. That's it. Like you make so telling people like that to be prepared ahead of time. Just going back on that for a second, and yeah, as far as questions that I have, nah, man, like I think we're copacetic, man. Like it's you guys have done, you know, a lot for me, like making sure that I'm prepared for stuff, like, and you guys are pretty open to my questions. I remember, to use a quick example, is that when you guys first introduced that Best Buy monitor, I was like, hey, Escrow, like, we're getting notified for Nintendo Switches that are above retail.
Yeah,
Like, I need you to stop that, man,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
because I know Nintendo Switches aren't nearly as popular as they used to be. But yeah, there's another thing, like, don't think about just shoes. You guys have other channels like the Funko channel, the Clips channel. Look at those things, man. It's not, if you're trying to make profit, it's not going to be just shoes all the time. Definitely utilize that. And I think a lot of us hit that coin. What was it, like 6 months ago
Oh
or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
or
yeah,
9 months?
yeah.
Well, a lot of you guys kept, I didn't know how to check out from the United States Mint website, but I simulated the checkout on that. So I got myself a little bit more familiar with it. So then when it came time to actually for that coin to drop, I was somewhat prepared, and hit it hard, and I got one, thank God. I could have hit more. I just didn't think that coin would be as popular as it, or as profitable as it is now.
Yeah.
Had otherwise I would have just went super hard on that as hard as I could. But yeah, just yeah, it goes back to be prepared. Yeah, but as far as shout outs, just, I mean, all the staff, you guys are doing well. I know I haven't acted as I should be. Life catches up to me a lot more than it does sometimes. But I'm open to DMs. So if anyone feels like DMing me, getting picking my brain for a second or two, I'm more than open to it. I may not respond to you as quickly as a staff member would, but just I'm open to it. But you guys do great work, and shout out to all the lifetimes and yearly people. You guys decided, at one point, hey, this is going to be a good investment for me. You guys believed in it. Obviously, if you guys didn't believe in it, you guys wouldn't have become a lifetime or a yearly member. Just you got shout out to all of them, and hey, let's keep it going, man. Like let's the next release I believe is the grapes,
Yeah.
alternate
Yeah,
grapes,
next
and
week.
let's keep it pushing.
I think everybody's more looking for those smoky grays, man. Like
Oh yeah, well I know,
that's
but yeah,
oof,
that's
oof.
the two. I need at least two pairs of those.
Yeah, same here, man. My girl tagged me on Facebook like these are it. Like, eesh. I know when
I
she tags there's gonna be a following, dude, because it takes a while for my girl to
mhm.
get interested in some of them. But thank you so much, dude. Beautifully said all around. Don't got nothing else for you, dude. I think we got everything we wanted to say. We said it. With that, have a great weekend. Enjoy the upcoming holiday. Stay safe and best of luck on all the future cops, man. Nothing but positive vibes sending your way.
Exactly. Same to you guys, man. Say hello to Nate Alvarez, I believe I had heard, and Joey as well. I call him Bob Ross. Hey,
Bob Ross, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, shout out to them and say hello.
All right, big boys. You take
All
it
right,
easy,
all
man.
right,
Don't be
thank
a
you.
stranger, and best of luck.